It's Wednesday, 11 May, the year of our Lord 2022. It's a day of just intensity all over on Capitol Hill throughout the nation. Horrible numbers today on inflation. Markets in an uproar. Joe Biden kind of wandered out today and gave some, really bizarre talk about inflation, everything he's going to do. Of course, blame it all on Putin. We've had action all over. Down in Georgia, announced today, it was Governor Ricketts, Governor Christie, and it's Doug Ducey. I actually said Steve Ducey in the former Steve Ducey, the great guy over at Fox. It's actually Doug Ducey is going down there to campaign with Kemp in support of Brian Kemp. So we're going to get to all that in a minute. We've got a packed show today. My wingman, Boris Ephsteyn's with us, and we have a very special guest, one of my favorites, Ken Blackwell. Ken, look, today you've had a circuit court state judge in Florida basically throw out the redistricting map that people, particularly the Warren posse, everybody's worked on this thing forever. It's Ron DeSantis' map. It's a perfect map. They threw it out now. Sabatini says it's going to be reversed on Monday or Tuesday. But you got a judge there going on. You got, I think, 5 different lawsuits in Wisconsin that's kind of slowed down the whole Gableman thing. Gableman's all over this up there, and I think you got 5 lawsuits. You got Tina Peters today. Is she's bounced out of? I don't think they've taken her off the ballot to run because she's been indicted all over the map for doing her job and getting to the bottom of this machine thing. But they've ruled, I think, that she can't perform her functions as the county clerk, senior election official in Mesa County, Colorado. She's out. You got Perdue was on earlier, Senator Perdue. You got he's still fighting in court down there to get the documents. You got Arizona, they're still fighting there. Dave Bossie came out with the amazing movie. I know you're part of the Rig 2020 that lays out how Zuckerberg did this with only $400 or $500 million of private money. Dinesh and Catherine Engelbrecht and the team were down in Mar-a-Lago the other day on 2,000 Mules are showing the ballot harvesting right there on video. They got geofencing, you got all this data. Brother, this is why I want to have you on. This fight, I want people to know, if people say, well, nothing's going on, ladies and gentlemen, they're fighting like crazy. In Pennsylvania, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you got the hot Senate primary. And Kathy Barnett, still the one talking about 3 November. And now she's with $143,000. She's kind of become a factor because people say, hey, you're not talking about 3 November enough. This fight, Brother Blackwell, is all over the country. It's in courtrooms. It's in state legislatures. So folks should know, hey, there are people fighting like crazy. Ken Blackwell.
Brother Bannon, it's good to be with you. And as you and I always say, there are no intermissions in this fight. And so we, in fact, have to be in the grill of the left. We have to understand the nature of the threat. In 246 years, there has not been a more deadly threat to the integrity of our constitutional republic than what is being waged now. I made a mistake, and I talked about the clown car in Washington known as the Biden administration, which in fact would leave people with the impression that this is just all about incompetency. This is intentional. This is in fact in full force, and we must fight back. Look, I don't spend a lot of time. My dad used to say, son, bees don't waste a lot of time trying to explain to flies that honey's better than dog poop. Let's get the job done. Let's get the job done. We have to understand that we have over 3,000 counties in this country. We, in fact, must be engaged, not just at the county level, but in the precinct level. We've been doing this not for days, not for weeks, but for months now. We've had grassroots intense action, and we must keep our foot on the gas because there is no intermission. These guys won't let up. What we have to do is just take them out.
Ken, explain to people, because I think like they see, Doug Ducey and Pete Ricketts and Chris Christie heading down, all former heads of the RGA or the current head of the RGA heading down with Brian Kemp. They see the situation out in Arizona. They see the situation with Voss up in Wisconsin. They see the thing that, they see so many elected officials that these people work for and fought for. And look, you were Secretary of State in the great MAGA state of Ohio. What is it about elected Republican officials, either state legislatures or people who are secretary of states or governors or attorney generals? I want to throw Brnovich in there down in. What is it that has kept them back and resistant? Because you've seen between Rig 2020 and Catherine Engelbrecht's footage and other documentation on that, the audit in Arizona, what Gableman's done in Wisconsin, your knowledge of what Zuckerberg did. Why is it that elected Republican officials are so scared of pressing this and taking this to its conclusion? Because like you said, 246 years of our constitutional republic, we don't have a choice. This is why Boris and I and others are so upset. And this is not about President. We love President Trump, but this is not about Trump. This is something deeper in that. We said we can't get off. If we allow that to happen, we just might as well throw in the towel. Ken Blackwell.
Well, Ronald Reagan was fond of saying that status quo is Latin for the mess that we're in. What we have with too many elected officials is a group of folks, individuals that love hugging a stale, broken status quo. What we say all the time, it takes courage. The great Satchel Paige used to say, it is damn difficult to steal second base if you want to keep one foot on first. We, in fact, must make that break. We must defend freedom. And you have too many elected officials that are comfortable in a broken status quo. That is what the voters in 2016 saw in Donald J. Trump. They saw someone that was ready to, in fact, attack a broken status quo. He was a high risk taker. He wasn't a foolish risk taker. He calculated, but he in fact understood that we had to change the status quo. We had to create a different pattern if in fact we were going to make our third century also an American century.
Ken, you're probably one of the most revered figures we bring on the show. You're with Rudy and a small handful of others. The audience would like your guidance. What are they to do now? Tell us. The reason the show is so powerful is the audience. It's an activist audience. Tell us right now what this active audience should do to get to the bottom, help get to the bottom of this.
Remember what we've said for now years. Agency, human agency. We are American citizens. We are not subjects. We are not wards of the state. And that means that we must get engaged and we must stay engaged. That's what's important. Frederick Douglass, the great, abolitionist, used to say, those who are whooped easiest are whooped most often. What this war room says is that we're not going to be whooped. We're going to stay engaged and at the precinct level. There's a biblical saying in John 3, and that is, those who would do evil love the darkness. Well, we have candles, we have flashlights, we have pen lights. We are piercing the heart, the darkness of the evil doers who, in fact, would try to destroy our constitutional republic. So get engaged, bring light, break the darkness, and in fact, we must win.
Ken, how do people follow you on social media, and do you have a website?
KenBlackwell.com, at Ken Blackwell on Getter and Twitter. And look, I write for townhall.com and have been for the last 15 years, and most of the other conservative publications. You can find my work. But it is about engagement. It's about being force multipliers for one another and amplifiers. That is why, whether it's Cleta Mitchell or Jessica Anderson, they're just any number of us, Ken Cuccinelli, we are in fact in this together. We are force multipliers, and we thank you, Steve, for in fact using your light to in fact pierce the darkness. And more as important, Brother Boris and all, we in fact understand there are no intermissions.
Ken Blackwell, thank you. Honored to have you on here, sir. Thank you for coming back.
Always good to be with you, sir.
Thank you. Also want to get, if we put Captain Bannon, if you put across all the chat rooms, let's get it up at Real America's Voice Everywhere, is the link to Rig 2020. I want to make sure everybody sees that. Also, I think we're going to try to get Catherine Engelbrecht on here tomorrow, working for get Catherine on tomorrow, the next day, to talk about the 2,000 mules and all the footage she's got. I want to go now to Boris Ephsteyn before I go to the rest of our guests. We're going to have a cold open here in a second. But Boris, there are no intermissions. I just want to make sure everybody, because this thing now is so intense. We got primaries going on. We got lawsuits going on. The redistricting is going on. We're a war room, and we try to get people in here, and we try to get snatches of information and people, whatever you desire, whether it's to go to precinctstrategy.com, become a precinct man, to go to Moms for Liberty, all the other parents' rights groups, and sign up to go take over a school board, right? Remember, there are 3,000 counties, there are 13,000 school boards. There's things that you can get active in. It's not going to cost you any money across the board to do it. So we want to make sure everybody's up on the ramparts right now, because, ladies and gentlemen, there's not going to be a day off between now and November 8th. There's just not. If we want to crush a crushing blow to the Democratic Party, and the people and the folks who are going to bring in here, Kyle LaBrue, Gibbs, Eli Crane, others and their staffs, they're working 24/7. They understand we got to bring the heat. Boris Ephsteyn.
The time is now. The time to work is now. We said it's 60 days of pain, but really this is the season of pain. From now until November 8th, this is the season of pain. And by the way, it's going to be a season of pain in which we win. This is going to be our year. We said that 2021 was the year of MAGA. 2022 is the year of MAGA on steroids. And we're seeing that all across the country. Look at President Trump's record. He's pretty much at 100%. You had the thing in Nebraska yesterday where he almost dragged the guy across the finish line. Should have been down by 25, came within 5 points. But then in West Virginia, President Trump got Mooney to win by over 10% versus Joe Manchin and Governor Justice over there in West Virginia. So right now, MAGA is ascendant. MAGA is in power. MAGA is in control, and it's going to continue to be there. We're going to continue to win, but only if this audience, the war room policy, the MAGA movement under the leadership of President Trump continues to be as hot and engaged as ever. By the way, based on what I'm seeing on social media, that's not going to be a problem. And we love the heat. We love what you all are bringing. Continue to stay involved at a level you've never before. And the returns we're going to see in November and in 2024 are going to be way above and beyond anything we expect. And in terms of, those rhinos, Chris Christie sent out some weak tweet against President Trump. That's all nonsense. These guys are a bygone era and they know it. And they're just getting together. It's sort of like the old retired gang that couldn't shoot straight. Nobody cares what any of you rhinos have to say. This is the MAGA party now, and MAGA's in control.
Yeah, the foregoing down there is kind of like this is Spinal Tap, right? It's like a reunion tour of a cover band. I want to go now. Can we play Memphis? Can we play the cold open before I bring Kyle and Eli and John on here? I want to play this cold open so we can get a full flavor of what's going on here.
Think about it, Speaker. The gentleman from Maryland talked about protecting this institution but we got a $40 billion bill at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I haven't had a chance to review the bill. My staff is poring over the pages trying to see what's in it. You want to talk about the institution? You want to talk about standing up alongside Ukraine? Why don't we actually have a debate on the floor of the People's House instead of the garbage of getting a $40 billion bill at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Not paid for, without having any idea what's really in it, with a massive slush fund that goes to the State Department, $13 billion, $8 billion for the Economic Support Fund, $110 million for embassy security. We've got $40 billion that is unpaid for, and you want to sit here and lecture this body about what we're going to do or not do about standing alongside Ukraine? Why don't we talk about the American people who are hurting, the wide open borders, the inflation that's killing people, the jobs that people can't get because of the cost of goods and services in this country? Sitting here and being lectured to when I don't even have time to look at a $40 billion unpaid bill. I make a motion to adjourn.
The impact that it is having on food for the world. So when you're home thinking, what is this all about? Just think about when I was hungry, you fed me, in the Gospel of Matthew. It also is so pleased that Mr. Meeks, the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, was with us because we talked about sanctions.
Wow. The gospel of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ to support the demon Nancy Pelosi. Okay, we're going to go around to Missouri, Arizona, and Michigan, 3 great states full of patriots. I want to start with Kyle LaBrue out in Missouri. Kyle, you're running to be a member of Congress. You saw the great Chip Roy right there. This thing, $40 billion not paid for, no oligarchs putting in a penny. Europe not putting in a penny, all the beautiful ski resorts and all the wealthy people are in Davos and in Switzerland and in northern Italy, you know, where George Clooney's living. You got beautiful France, no money. Germany, no money. Norway with the $1 trillion sovereign wealth fund, no money. American tax totally unpaid for. So you're running out there with folks in Missouri that now can't get formula and can't put food on the table because prices are at all-time 40-year highs, and we're sending $40 billion over to the third most corrupt nation on earth. So, Kyle LaBrue, tell us your perspective. You're running for Congress out there to represent these people and give them a voice and be a fighter. Were the people in Missouri happy about this?
Well, it's really simple, Steve. You can see that the left don't care about a child in the womb. They don't care about the children right now that are out of the womb. You know, there's no formula. You know, families are having to decide between what bills they're going to pay. You know, they're looking at their grocery bills and they're just getting larger and larger and wondering, do I pay my grocery bill or do I pay my light bill? And it's just ridiculous. I've never seen this type of business plan before in the world where they're like, let's take $40 billion from a group of people and give it to somebody else that didn't pay into it at all. I can think of millions of Americans that would rather have that. They just want to start giving it out. I can think of some really creative ways. There's some single moms. There's some families that are struggling. We can divvy that money up anytime that they want. How about we just stand at the gas pump and hand out gas cards to people that are trying to get to work? There's a lot of opportunities out there for people that need help right now. But we've decided to ship this money overseas, not even looking at all the different slush funds in it. And it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Kyle, you're running as a Trump MAGA populist, an economic nationalist. If we were to take the War Room show, if Boris and I and the rest of the team were to take the show and actually do it out in Missouri 4, what would be the one or two things, three things? What's the top of the mind of folks in Missouri when they think about politics and leadership in this country, sir?
I think we have to talk about inflation right now because that's what is affecting people immediately. When they go to the gas pump, they see it. When they go to pay their bills, they see it. You know, we can talk about statistics all day and we can talk about how we got into this mess. But what we're seeing is we got families that at night are praying, how do I make my bills? And we've got to fix that. We've got to quit talking about what somebody else did, and we've got to figure out how to make it better for the American people. I think an immediate thing that you can do in this country is start drilling and start opening up our pipelines again.
Kyle, you've had a person on Monday, by the way, I want to announce we're going to have a webinar about this insanity about giving our sovereignty to the World Health Organization. So Frank Gaffney, Michelle Bachman, we've got experts all over the world. We're going to be talking about it tomorrow morning, Friday, on the weekend special, and on Monday. So people are coming to organize about how we stop this. You've had a very personal, you wrote a great piece about your personal experience with COVID. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, Steve. It's a lot for me to talk about, but my brother passed away last year from COVID, and it changes everything in your life when you lose a loved one. And what I realized is that my brother was just a statistic to the government that they wanted to use to pump in fear into this country. And it motivated me in somewhat. I didn't want to be just somebody sitting around on the sidelines screaming about what should be done. I wanted to be part of making it happen. And it's interesting because I've talked about accountability to a lot of different people. I've called some attorneys and said, why are we not holding these people accountable? Why is nobody suing, China? Why is nobody suing Wuhan Labs, Fauci? I'm just one story of millions of people out there that have been affected by COVID. And we've somehow just decided that COVID, we don't want to talk about it anymore because we've just beat a dead horse. But accountability has to be brought to light at some point. And people like my brother, his life means something. All these Americans, and even throughout the world, people that have lost their lives mean something. And people need to be held accountable for what's happened.
Kyle, how do people find out more about you and your campaign? How they follow you on social media?
I'm on all the social media handles. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Getter, and I'm on Facebook. And then KyleLaBrue.com. We would love anybody's support in the fight to just not let things just slip away. So thank you for being a voice, Steve, as you always are, and of reason, and not just fading back into the background and what's popular and what's normal is people need to start pushing against what's there, and we're here to do that.
Kyle, thank you very much for the kind words, and give our regards to all the great patriots out there in Missouri. We love Missouri, great state, full of patriots, full of big time MAGA out there.
Yes, we are. Thank you, Steve, for everything that you do for our country.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for the kind words. Let's go out to Arizona. Boris, I want to punch through these because I want to make sure these guys got plenty of time to talk. I want to go to Eli Crane. He's a veteran. He served his country. He's out in Arizona too. Love Arizona too. We're the Bannons have got some roots out there in Arizona. It's a fabulous state. The railhead of the hardest core of the hardcore of the Trump movement. I actually might say, Boris, this might be where Ultra MAGA started. Eli Crane, $40 billion. Yes. The Patriots, Ultra MAGA. Eli, you got so many veterans and so many patriots and so many people that have served their country, been wounded for their country, have brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, lovers and husbands that have sacrificed or died for their country, parents and grandparents. $40 billion for Ukraine, Eli, and you're at the tip of the spear down there, a frontline state on the border, not one penny for the border. Nancy Pelosi's not going down and reading the Gospel of Matthew down at the border, right? You don't see Biden down there going to the border. You don't see anybody down the border. Eli Crane, your perspective on this $40 billion, sir.
Hey, Steve, thanks for having me. For me, this is just one more example of the disconnect between our representatives and the American working class. Let's start from the top, Steve. We have $30 trillion in debt. When you look at what the European neighbors of Ukraine have thrown into this support, it hovers somewhere around $7 billion. When you look at what the United States, now that we're throwing another $40 billion into this, we're approaching $56 billion. Just to give you an idea, Steve, and for all your listeners out there, we could shore up the border, which is completely open right now, and fund the Border Patrol, which is annual budget is about $4 billion a year for many years to come, and still have money left over. This is how little they care about our own sovereignty. And here's the thing I want people to understand, Steve. It's not that Arizonans or Americans aren't compassionate. It's not that we don't care about the Ukrainians or other people. It's just that we want to get our own house in order before we start going and meddling in other people's affairs.
Eli, I want to go back to the Chip Roy situation where they got the bill, and it's a complicated bill, right? They got a bill yesterday at 3:00, and there no debate, no hearings, no due diligence. That they call it, and you're going to vote a couple hours later, and Chip Roy just goes off on them. Do the folks in Arizona too? They understand the lack of respect that shows to them. Let's just leave the amount, the egregious amount. And you laid out the numbers perfectly. Europe's putting about 7 all in with all those countries. We've already got 16 in, added another 40 for 5 months. Remember, this is only going to be 5 months. You're going to come back in 5 months for more. Do people understand out there the lack of respect of what they're doing? They just care less if the representatives get to see it or not, sir?
Absolutely, Steve. And this is why the America First MAGA movement is so strong out here in Arizona. This is why people are furious. Like I said, it's one more example, and it's one more reason why you see guys like myself that wanting nothing to do with politics. I wear a ball cap a lot of the time, Steve. I have tattoos. I don't look like a politician. I don't act like one. I don't talk like one. But it's one reason why guys like me are now being championed and leading in our races, because Americans and Arizonans are so sick and tired of having representatives that could care less about putting Americans first.
Hey, Eli, what's your social media, and how do people find out more about your campaign out there? Because Arizona is, we got to win Arizona too. They've had this Democrat there that is unbelievable, and he's not serving the people out there. He's got to be replaced. So how do people find out about your campaign?
Thanks, Steve. They can find me on social media, Eli Crane _CEO. And And if they want to go to my website, it's eli4arizona.com. That's eli4arizona.com. Steve, thank you so much for what you're doing every day, brother. We all watch you out here and we appreciate it.
Well, we love the Patriots out there in Arizona. I tell you, you guys are the railhead of this fight, and we love you guys, and we're always going to have your back. Eli, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Steve.
Boris, give me 30 seconds. We're going to take a break. We're going to have John Gibbs, Greitens, and Blake Masters coming after the break. Real quickly, 30 seconds. Leadership in the Republican House to allow this to happen, sir.
Steve, this is the thing that I've been probably the hottest on in a long time. Honestly, since the big steal of 3 November. It is inexcusable, unacceptable, and it is downright pathetic for Republican leadership to either support, whip, or allow such a huge percentage of Republicans, over 60%, at least 70%, to vote for this $40 billion. Could you imagine $40 billion? And here's the question. Are there any constituents in any of these districts that support this boondoggle for Ukraine when America is dying? Disgusting.
Disgusting. Short commercial break. We're going to go to Michigan and John Gibbs. We're going to go to Arizona and Blake Masters. And we're going to go back to Missouri and Eric Greitens. We're going to get to the bottom of all this next in the War Room.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. Boris is riding shotgun with me. In this hour, we're going to go try to get Greitens in Missouri, Blake Masters in Arizona. I want to go to Michigan 3 and John Gibbs. Boris, this morning you were on with Cortez and myself, and as soon as Cortez
before my shave,
Chip Roy, Cortez said, "Before your shave, pre-shave." I didn't want to mention that on air, Boris. I'll just let that. I'm so kind of embarrassed, but just saying. You went from rugged individualism to. Was it seeing Neil Katyal in over at Tosca that you felt like you had to shave after that? Did he shame you, being a former professor of yours? Did he shame you?
No,
to start
seeing
to
him
more
only
look like
invigorated me.
the Ivy League adjacent that Georgetown is?
First of all, I'm still wearing 2 shirts, so I've got to get credit for that. Okay. Second of all, seeing Professor Katyal only invigorated me and reminded me of booking this class and getting A in criminal law, criminal justice. And also, I'm from where I stand, I figured that I needed to be a little more fluid and be able to jump into the fight. So hence a little shave. But you know what? We all do our own thing. You want to be like George Hamilton or, a slightly older, larger version of Robert Redford. That's okay. That's your choice. And you're entitled to it.
Larger version. Okay. This morning we had Cortez on. Cortez was doing the economic analysis, but it was so outrageous what happened last night, Boris, when 3 of us were together about this $40 billion. Steve texted me right away. He said, you got to get John Gibbs on here, because of the particular circumstances in Michigan 3. So we're bringing in John Gibbs, who's running for Congress and a Trump endorsed. So John, I want to, if John, thank you for coming. Let's get John on here. And then I want to put up this photo that I think is a little disturbing because, John, thank you so much. Welcome here to the show. Glad to have you on, sir.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's great to be on again.
So, John, this $40 billion Ukrainian situation, but if you put up just the stereo right there, let's get that up on the screen. John, describe what we're looking at, because the audience, particularly for our podcast and radio audience, you have a bunch of congressmen. It's like a group shot on the steps of the Capitol, and they've got and I think I got to say, is a defaced American flag. It's the American flag for half of it, and then the bottom half is in the colors. The blue and gold of Ukraine. And then there's a circle drawn in the middle with an individual in this kind of sea of individuals. So John, describe for our podcast, our TV audience and live streaming audience can see this, but describe who that individual is and what is this occasion?
Sure. So you've got a bunch of members of Congress standing here, and they're holding up a defaced American flag, which the bottom of it is the Ukrainian flag, which is insulting in and of itself. One of the prominent congressmen standing very close to that flag is my primary opponent, Peter Meyer, who you might have heard of being one of the 10 impeachment voters against President Trump And actually, this was his first vote as a member of Congress. He did it days after being inaugurated into Congress. He votes to backstab our president, but he is prominently featured in this picture where they're holding up a defaced American flag supporting a foreign nation over our own. So it's quite absurd. It's quite appalling, to say the least.
John, talk to us about Michigan 3 and what's going on right now. We had another horrible inflation number today. They couldn't spin it. Biden comes out and says it's all about Putin's energy. He's got this excuse. He's got COVID. He's got he's got the moon and the star. He's got everything about their own actions that got us here. But the folks out in Michigan 3, they're about as common sense Americans as you can get. What's their attitude right now with what's going on?
Absolute madness. As I always say, this November is not going to be Democrat versus Republican. It's going to be crazy versus normal. The inflation numbers that came out today at 8.3% are 5 times higher than the day that President Trump left office. Gas prices here in my district are twice as high as the day that President Trump left office. So for Biden to sit here and blame everything under the sun except his own policies is absurd. All you have to do is look at the timelines, look at the numbers, and how badly things have gotten since then, and you realize that the responsibility for this lies right at Biden's feet. I was speaking to a group of pastors the other day, and I was asking them what are the big issues. Gas prices was the number one thing that they said, because many of the poor members of their congregation can't even afford to drive to work. So these issues that Biden has done with his inflation policies have been devastating to the people in our district.
So you got a ton of patriots out there. It's common sense America. It's the Midwest. It's that kind of Midwest nice, decent folks. Tons of patriots. People serve the country. When you go out, when you're going around the district, what are the 1 or 2 priorities that they say, hey, John, you're a fighter. If you go to D.C., this is what I want you to focus on, sir?
2 things. One is election integrity. People are very fired up about making sure our elections are secure. We all know what happened in 2020 and the absolute boondoggle that it was. We've got to make sure that never happens again. So people want to make sure that strong action is taken on election integrity, which includes reining in these absentee ballots and the madness they did with those, as well as getting some more visibility on these voting machines, including making sure that they're open source so American citizens can inspect the source code of those machines. So election integrity is probably the single biggest issue I hear about. Next would be inflation. Again, these gas prices are hitting everybody really hard. And it's not just the gas prices, which are twice as high as when President Trump left office. You're also talking about going to the grocery store and having empty shelves, and having to pay a significantly higher amount for your chicken and your pork chops, whatever it might be. And the other day, I was talking to some blueberry farmers here in West Michigan. We produce lots and lots of blueberries, one of the top producers in the country, and they're getting hammered hard too. Whether it's the price of fertilizer, the price of fuel for their machines, that's hitting them really hard. So this inflation, in particular gas prices, but not only gas prices, this overall inflation that Biden has brought us is an issue I hear from people as well. So election integrity and inflation are really hammering us, and we got to fix it.
So, John, when you sit there, one of the big things in inflation is the printing of money and government spending. They just passed an appropriations bill, 60 days ago, $5.2 trillion, $1.5 trillion of that discretionary spending, not paid for at all, just going to print money. $40 billion, and people did not have time to read. You heard Chip Roy on our cold open. Chip Roy, great congressman from Texas, lighting the place up and saying, hey, that we haven't had a hearing about it. We've done no due diligence. We've had no debate on this, and we're going to try to jam it through in a couple hours. What is your sense of what you would do as a congressman if presented a $40 billion bill and a $40 billion thing that gets us to $56 billion? And this is only good for 5 months. And more importantly, what are the people in Michigan 3? What do they want you to do?
Well, this is outrageous, first of all. People look around and they see all the issues we have in our own country and are absolutely puzzled as to how we could be willing to spend $40 billion on another country when we have so many issues that we can't even deal with here ourselves. And going back to Chip Roy's comment, I loved it. I mean, they only got such a short amount of time to review this. And when I was in the Trump administration as assistant secretary under Dr. Ben Carson, I saw the same games too. They tried to give us a COVID bill, $9 billion. They hadn't read it. It was 5,400 pages. And they're actually calling me and asking me what's in the bill that they wrote and signed. So this kind of madness happens all too often, D. So we've got to rein it in. Ukraine and Russia both are two of the most corrupt countries out there. And we're just rolling out the red carpet for them with $40 billion. It's just outrageous, considering our national debt especially. And again, in our Trump administration, when we were in office, we asked for much less than that to build a wall. They wouldn't give us anything for it. We had this to scrap for every dime. So it's just amazing that they would give so much money to a foreign country to defend itself but they wouldn't even help us to protect our own country from the fentanyl and cocaine coming across our southern border. That's killing over 70,000 Americans a year. So it just makes your blood boil. And people here in Michigan don't like it. They don't understand it. They feel like the government is run amok and is no longer even trying to represent them. And Peter Meyer, my opponent, is at the forefront of that a globalist movement, which no longer cares about representing the people that voted for him.
John Gibbs, how do people find out more about you, how they follow you on social media, and how they find out about your campaign, sir?
VoteJohnGibbs.com. That's VoteJohnGibbs.com. Or you go on Twitter, that's VoteJohnGibbs. Would love to have you guys on board. I'm up against a billionaire. He's going to get whooped, but we do need to raise enough to go out there and get my name out. The polling shows I'm up by 20 points against him when the voters know that I'm endorsed by Trump and Dr. Ben Carson. So that's VoteJohnGibbs.com. Please go check it out. We appreciate your prayers also. That's the most important thing.
John, it's pretty good duo, Dr. Ben Carson and Donald Trump. That's two pretty good endorsements, sir. Fight on.
I feel very blessed. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
John, thank you very much. Hey, Boris, before we got Blake Master, go to Blake in a second, but I got to tell you, one thing about doing this show and seeing the quality, the depth, this is not 16 anymore. We're not the same movement. We're picking up, and we're going to have Blake Masters, Eric Greitens. I mean, we're picking up people, in Michigan. You got Christina Cameron that's running for Secretary of State. You got across the board. You got women, you have minorities, and it's all MAGA. You got DePerna, you got veterans, Eli Crane, right? You got entrepreneurs like Kyle LaBrue. This movement has a scale to it and a depth to it.
Oh yeah.
In Texas over the weekend, we won all the school boards for the moms. We're ascendant, and we're ascendant because people are focused. And I got to tell you, this thing last night, I asked you, we don't know where the Senate is. Boris, I know you've been going around and doing some checkings today. What is the blowback that they're getting about this $40 billion right now?
Immense. Phone calls to offices in state, in district, phone calls to D.C. The blowback has been unbelievable. And I'm going to urge for it to continue. There is absolutely no reason any Republican should vote for this. And I'll ask again the question I wanted to ask at the end of the last segment. How can anybody, fine, you want to be woke libs, woke radicals who are obsessed with Ukraine, and you've got the TDS and you're all nuts, fine, that's your deal. But does any Republican think that their honest constituents at home want them to vote for this? Want them to go along with feckless Joe Biden? Pathetic Jake Sullivan and Nancy Pelosi, who literally doesn't know where she is? Does anybody on the Republican side actually believe that even 10, 15, 20 of their voters are in favor of sending $40 billion, $40 billion? If a person had $40 billion, they would be in the top, 0.00001% or even less? Just imagine how much money that is, and we're shipping it overseas instead of, by the way, as Kyle LaBrue said, let's give out gas cards. Let's give out a food card. Let's fix babies are in danger of going hungry in our country. Babies are in danger of starving in our country because of this lack of baby formula. And we're worried about the Ukraine? That's what we are? You want to go look at the videos from the inner city of Philadelphia.
Let's leave Ukraine aside for 1 second. They have not. Tell me what the plan is. We haven't forced Biden to come forward and tell us what's the objective. What are we trying to accomplish? What's the end game? Just what is it? What is it? And the Republican leadership rolling over last night was disgusting. That was disgusting. That's the thing that galls people is you don't have enough respect. They're not bringing respect. They're not bringing respect, not just to MAGA. They're not bringing respect to the American people, the Republican Party, the Republican voter, and MAGA.
What's the rush?
That's
the big question.
Because Zelensky. Because if they didn't, they knew if we got a week.
And the secretary of, their defense minister and their foreign minister are ridiculing America. So you're going to let the Ukrainians belittle and bully the United States of, by God, America into sending $40 billion over there? It defies every single bit of logic. And by the way, imagine if it were flipped. Imagine if Republicans wanted to spend $40 billion and don't imagine, go back to the wall.
Forget it.
You think you'd get 150 or whatever it was Democrats voting? You remember they shut down the government, Steve.
Obscene.
They shut down the government over less money for the wall, and the Republicans are like, it's just
$5 billion.
This is the
$5 billion
at the strip club. It's just the government's at the strip club, throw money away while American people are starving and dying and babies are hungry. It is disgusting and it is unacceptable.
I'm glad John Gibbs is off, so he didn't hear your thing. Let's go. I tell you, we got a clip from Blake
I've
Masters.
never been to one. I'm not saying I've been to one. I'm just
Blake.
saying I imagine that's what it's like.
Just you heard. Let's play the Blake Masters clip.
Well, the House of Representatives just greenlit $40 billion for Ukraine. $40 billion. But remember, they said $8 billion for a border wall with Mexico was too expensive. Under Joe Biden, it's always America last. Now let's be clear about what this means. It means no ceasefire. It means another foreign war where we pay for everything. Many more thousands of people will die. There's no resolution, no end in sight. And the risk, of course, is that a proxy war can escalate into an all-out nuclear war between nuclear powers. If our leaders were serious people who cared about this country, they'd urge peace abroad and they'd crack down on violence here at home. But they're buffoons who hate you. So instead, they'll keep defending Ukraine's borders while turning their backs on ours. They'll keep funding killing in Eastern Europe and tolerating it in Chicago. So look, we've got our own problems. Our economy's on life support. But apparently there's always more money for waging proxy wars halfway around the world.
Okay, Blake Masters joins us. He's running for the Senate on a tough primary out in Arizona for the Republican nomination. Blake, what are the folks in Arizona saying about this? What is this kind of reality is now? You've put this video out. Is this kind of seeping into people? What are folks out there saying?
Primary voters in Arizona are pissed off. You know, the question I've been getting today at the events that I've done is, Blake, we get why the Democrats would do this, right? Biden's America last. Of course he's going to make the wrong decision. But why are the Republicans going along with it? You know, most Republicans in the House of Representatives voted to spend this $40 billion. You know, in Arizona, 3 of our 4 Republican congressmen voted no, which is great. We had Gosar, you had Biggs, you had Debbie Lesko. But you had David Schweikert, congressman from Scottsdale, who voted to send that $40 billion to Ukraine. I hope his constituents ask him, what was he thinking? And so people are just really pissed off, Steve. It feels like it's not just the left at this point. You've got the establishment right that is no longer looking after the interests of the American people. That's why we have to rebuild the Republican Party. It's why you've got to get America First candidates like me in. And, you know, with friends like these Republicans, who needs the Democrat enemies? They're just selling us out. And it's disgusting.
If you were in the Senate, give me a minute tonight. If you were in the debate, give me your best minute you've got. You're standing up there in the well of the Senate, and it comes time for the debate in the greatest deliberative body the world's ever seen. What's Blake Masters' argument about this $40 billion, sir?
What are we doing? When are we going to learn, right? Why is Washington, D.C. obsessed with making sure we have a stand in every proxy war going halfway around the world? We're living through a period of American decline. It's sad to admit, but we got to be honest. It's true. We have problems here at home. And I think it's disgusting that people in D.C., again, these bipartisan elites, they want to send $40 billion to Ukraine to go God knows where, when they can't muster $8 billion for a border wall with Mexico. You have military veterans, people who served this country honorably, sleeping homeless under park benches in countless towns and cities across America. We can't help them out, but we can help out people halfway around the world who aren't American, who aren't even allies of America. We got to learn, because this foreign interventionism, it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and it's disgusting to take taxpayer dollars, send $40 billion abroad when you have this inflation. What are we doing? Are we going to get serious and reverse course? Or are we going to continue to do the same mindless bipartisan interventions that are just causing as many problems as they solve? And so my plea to people is get Republicans in office who know what time it is, who are going to stop this madness.
Do we have the clip from MSNBC? Can I play that clip? Let's go ahead and play the clip. They tried to take a hit on Blake Masters Day on Meet the Press Daily. Let's hear it.
There's a new video that we just obtained, actually, out of Arizona, another Senate race that we are going to be looking at that is still crowded. Trump is yet to endorse in this race, but one of the candidates who has already made a trip to Mar-a-Lago is Blake Masters, the other Peter Thiel candidate, along with J.D. Vance, who has been heavily financed by the billionaire. I want to let you listen here. This is the first time we are airing this. Anybody is hearing this. This was Blake Masters back in February when he was asked a question about the future of the Equal Rights Amendment. Take a listen.
Women are not paid less in America than men. It's a left-wing narrative, this gender pay gap. When you control for the occupations, when you control for people taking time out to, birth children, things are actually pretty equal. And men do the most dangerous jobs. Men are the ones who are the police officers. Not all of it, but 80% of it in this country. Men are the ones who are doing risky, fishing, crab fishing.
Okay, let's go. Okay, let's go ahead and take it down. It plays another 30 seconds. So they're losing it over there at MSNBC. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to lay out. It was a little hard to hear there. We got about a minute. Lay out what was the argument you were making there, Blake?
Well, it's interesting. I think they were trying to attack me, but actually, I listened to that video, and I'm like, no, I'm correct. The gender pay gap, to a first approximation, doesn't exist. It's a left-wing lie. Right? They want to pass the so-called Equal Rights Amendment. I think women already have equal rights in this country. You already have the Equal Pay Act of 1963. You already have the Fair Labor Standards Act. Okay. And, if men make a little bit more, it's because you're not controlling for certain things. Men do a lot of the most dangerous jobs in society. Sometimes those jobs pay more. But if you adjust for skill and occupation and qualifications, actually women make about the same amount of money as men in this country. Okay, so what the left wants to do is pass the Equal Rights Amendment, use it as a Trojan horse to grab more power to implement Kamala Harris's national gender strategy. And it's just that path to totalitarianism. We got to just be bold. And who cares what MSNBC says? It's just fake news.
Blake, real quickly, your campaign, how do they find out more about you?
Just go to blakemasters.com, sign up, get involved. I'm going to win this primary in August, and we're going to beat Mark Kelly in November. Thank you, Steve.
By the way, Boris, I realize it's not Georgetown or Harvard, but that Stanford thing I think it kind of worked for Blake Masters. Kind of like that logic there, right? I think we need a little of that Stanford. We need MAGA Stanford. We'll be back at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Boris, I'll talk to you afterwards. We'll put up in all the platforms how to get to Boris's social media. Boris, thank you very much, and thank you for shaving. See you tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. Room be on fire. Where? In the War Room.